The Ask the Experts Theater at CSCMP Edge 24 is sponsored by Canop.
All right, guys, we'll go ahead and get started here. A few minutes late. Thank you for stopping by. We're going to talk about WMS today. And before I even jump into intros, I know we don't have a whole lot of folks, but how many of you guys work for a company that currently runs a WMS? I know Brett knows a lot about WMS. He's in a consulting role. Are you guys 3PLs? Okay, cool. So my name's Chris Sobota. This is my colleague Doug. We're both with Mantis Americas. And I'm based in Denver. I am involved with the local Rocky Mountain chapter. Thank you, Eric. If any of you guys are traveling through Denver, we appreciate visitors. I've been in supply chain for about 10 years. I was with Coyote when it was acquired by UPS, and I've sold a couple different WMS platforms over the last kind of 6 or 7 years. And this is my dog Denali on the top of a mountain in Crested Butte, Colorado. Doug, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
I'm Doug Bailey. I'm a business development manager for Mantis. I'm based in Michigan. I've been at this for a while. 25 years only focused on the 3PL industry, really spanning dry storage, refrigerated, and really all things 3PL has really been my lifetime profession and career for 25 years.
Thank you, sir. All right, so just a few facts about Mantis before we kind of jump into a more WMS-focused conversation. So Mantis was established in '96. In 2022, we merged with a company called Ecovium, which is based in Hamburg, Germany. And Ecovium has, I'll call it, a suite of complementary supply chain products, things like sanctions checking for international shipping. They even have a TMS catering to the European market. They had a couple legacy WMSs, but Mantis has really replaced it as the flagship product within the portfolio. So we have offices kind of throughout the world. There's a very global feel to Mantis. The platform, the WMS platform, it's called Logistics Vision Suite, called LVS, is currently running in 30 countries, comes in 20 languages out of the box. We combined with Ecovium, we have over 800 clients and a lot of partners. So very worldly feel. Most people are familiar with Gartner. It is our 5th year on the Gartner Magic WMS quadrant. I think our entrance to the US was a bit of a strategic move to help get us on the Magic Quadrant, but most people are familiar with that. And one of the reasons, why we're on the quadrant is because of our solid kind of A-list clients. So you'll see kind of who you expect to see on a list of WMS, but about 35% of our clients worldwide are 3PLs, which is what we're going to kind of focus on today. And so admittedly, some of these clients are actually our 3PLs clients. But you'll see, like, for instance, JD Smith up here at the top is a large 3PL out of Toronto, Elam, based in Northern California. And everybody asks about the Amazon logo up top, and you'll see the logo to the right of that, Netlog. So Netlog is a 3PL that exclusively runs the Amazon business through 5 sites in Turkey. So in that sense, all of the Amazon business through Turkey is being run through LVS. So it's notable. There are some case studies on that on our website if you want to learn more. But all right, so a quick question to Doug. How can a modern WMS contribute to the growth of a 3PL?
When we think about a WMS, we kind of think foundationally, what is that thing responsible to do? And it's really responsible to track inventory, obviously, from the time it arrives to the time it gets shipped out. In the world of 3PL, we got to find the most cost-effective and efficient way to do that on behalf of our customers. And there's a variety of ways to get there. Part of it with us is like getting some pre-receipt of order information before the product always arrives, and having track of the disposition of the product while it sits in the warehouse, whatever that disposition may be, and then doing whatever we can to make sure that we're doing on-time and full deliveries on the backside of it. And that's handled through a lot of times the electronic communication, the EDI or that level of detail. Sometimes it's scanning, that gives you the real-time information for disposition of product when it's in the warehouse. But then also integration is a big piece of that, of the type of parcel or TMS, LTL truckload system on the outbound side. So those all factor in. But when we start really thinking about a modern WMS and what contributes to the growth, I first think about the only constant in this industry is really change. That there's always an ever constantly changing mix of things your existing customers want you to do, what's going to be required to take on a customer that maybe you haven't had before, that tracks product or does things you haven't done, and to be confident as a 3PL operator that you can do those things and do them profitably, particularly with the current labor market today, which sometimes they're maybe don't have the skills maybe they had in the past, or they're just not people available, to be able to do that work. So these days we're forced to try to take on more 3PL business, maybe with the same level of labor that you have or even less, and so that's a big challenge. But through it all, we've got to make sure that we offer good visibility to anybody in your supply chain of the real-time status of what that inventory is. We've got to be able to provide the executives within your company, the key performance indicators and the information they may need to make sure that the business is healthy and so they can make good executive decisions, but also just the adaptability, flexibility, and scalability of your WMS so you can adapt to what your customers are asking of you, and you can adapt to what's required to take on new customers. That not only can you trust that the software can do it, but does your own team have the keys to the car to be able to configure and adapt it without having to pay modifications, without having to go back to the vendor and pay the vendor. And in some cases, waiting for the vendor can be as costly as the modifications themselves. So a modern WMS, for one, ought to be able to handle the features and functions that are required to allow you to maintain existing customers and attract new ones, but also have it be tools where you're empowered to make those changes and adapt on your own where it makes sense. And we see a lot of that.
Thank you for that, Doug. Just a couple quick words on this slide. Mantis is a standalone WMS, so we're really built to be agnostic. You're trying to get information into and out of the WMS from a lot of different systems, and that is really what we're built to do. So we're not going to pigeonhole you into a specific ecosystem. We do also have a WES, an execution system, as a module within the WMS, so connecting to whatever type of automation hardware would generally run through that, but we won't get overly technical. All right, Doug, one more question for you about value. So how do the 3PLs that you work with today approach the concept of value or ROI when they're looking at what can be a significant dollar amount for the WMS? How do they come up with this is going to be worth it?
Well, again, what we find is the only constant in that business is change, and so our customers are always striving to maintain existing customers and attract new ones. And what we focus on a lot are like what we call the Gartner stratification levels. And are you guys familiar with Gartner and these different stratification levels of how they classify 3PLs and just distribution centers and warehouses in general? Our mission is we've got to meet customers where they're at. We encounter customers and prospects that could be anywhere on this stratification level, from all the way on the far side, whether it's lights out, fully dark automation, to on the other side, not much more than spreadsheets, they're using to track inventory levels. And then as you look at the different stratifications in between, like numbers 2, 3, 4, sometimes it has to do with how skilled is the workforce. There's a lot of temp workers in there. Do you have people that are educated in your business? And then also what kind of processes, are you doing? What kind of customers do you have as a 3PL? Is it pallet in, pallet out? Is it quite diverse, where in one corner you're doing wearing apparel where you got to track color, size, style. In this part you've got to track stuff at serial numbers, and maybe yet you've got customers tracking stuff at a lot level. So for us, our main focus is we never know where our prospects, who they're going to be or where they fit in this Gartner stratification level, where they fit in this whole myriad. But we always know they're looking for more optimization, efficiency, and profitability. And it's our role as a vendor to meet them where they're at and find, hey, how do we get them from where they are today to, kind of more profitable, optimized, more efficient type of an operation. So part of it, a lot of folks these days are going to automation. And I guess even as I ask you guys, how many of you out there would say you're automated, in the 3PL business that you do? Robots or conveyors, sorters, diverters, that sort of thing. Is anybody out there doing that?
GBT could count.
How many would you say aren't much beyond like a spreadsheet, more paper-based and doing it kind of where you're telling the system what happened after the thing happened? Do you have operations like that? Maybe some of you are maybe more in between, where you're doing maybe some radio frequency, you might have some voice, maybe bits and pieces wherever it makes sense. Well, that's typical for us, but more often than not, we have people, at least in 3PL today, dabbling in automation. They're trying robots. These things are getting more affordable. We have some, it's fully spreadsheet. We never know what we're going to get. But what we're being asked for all the time is to optimize labor, where we see labor forces that tend to be more and more temporary, where less and less tribal knowledge and less reliant on having to we always have that guy do the work because he's the only one that knows how to do it. So we have customers constantly asking us to set the system up so it's system-driven next steps, as opposed to my temp workers having to remember, what do I have to push on this screen or on the voice command, or if it takes 6 days to get someone trained how to do it, and most of the 3PLs we work with, that's not efficient. We've got to have a system directing what the next step is that they do, as opposed to relying on the whole tribal knowledge idea of, hey, the people just know how to do it, of this myriad of 25 different menu options. What do I do in this circumstance? We got to configure the system to make it very clear what the next right thing is to do in their operations. So more and more, we've got a lot of 3PL customers that want to get into physical automation with robots and conveyors and kind of what I think is a traditional hardware sense, but more and more trying to drive what kind of software automation can we get. The ability to do directed put away, to do interleaving, to even that customer portal, or, some of you is like, hey, I've been doing that for a long time, but a lot of you guys, without making the leap to full hardware automation, is what can we do as a vendor to help you automate and have more system-driven processes so you can take advantage of the temporary workers and the real-life workforce that we have available in our industry today in the wild. So that's something that we really strive for.
Yep. Good points, Doug. For the ROI for me often comes down to labor, 60% of the warehouse. So folks are just looking to do more work with less employees. And it also comes down to, are they making mistakes with inventory? Is the wrong product not in the right place? Is it going out? Are there errors being made? Folks end up writing off inventory because they don't have, they can't find it. They'll lose it in the warehouse if they don't have that real-time inventory piece. All right, Doug, I've got, I think, one more for you. So when you're thinking about features and benefits of a modern WMS that's catered to 3PL, what comes to mind? And maybe it's drones doing cycle counts and whatnot, which I have seen floating around, but what do you think of, Doug?
What I think of is what it's like for new people to learn to use the system and how they adapt to it. So the user interface, to have it be a pleasing experience for our operators these days, to be able to take the system on and learn it, to have that be a friendly experience, and also have it not only be that, but without losing any of the features and functionality you need to take care of your customers and your potential customers. So that's a big deal. Integration is obviously a huge deal. We never know within the customers we work with, what kind of systems they might already have in place, or even after the fact, the type of customer relationships they have, that there's going to be new integrations that they have to do. Our customers are always asking us to make sure that we protect their biggest spends. How can we track their space? Are we doing a good job of optimizing their space and their labor? And for them to have a clear picture from a KPI and executive level to know that of the work that they're doing, are they profitable customer by customer? And then, of course, having inventory visibility to anybody within your supply chain, any stakeholder that needs to know, just the true situation, the true, the inventory itself, what's the status of it at any point in time. Real-time knowledge, of again, not only the health of the business at the executive level, but just the health of the inventory for anybody in your supply chain it's a big deal.
So this is just an example of a BI screen, but certainly features and benefits of a modern system would be able to lay up the simple data that your system's recording. And I hear a lot of folks talk about a labor management system, separate from your WMS, but those are expensive, and doing time trials are expensive, but your system should be able to spit out some pretty high level labor stats that you can manage to, right? So knowing kind of what your folks are doing, who are your most productive laborers in the warehouse, who maybe needs help, all that should just be available with the normal process of what's going on in the WMS without going to a third party labor management system. And kind of another concept that we see a lot in terms of if you have modern technology in your warehouse, we see a lot of our clients looking to expand to a 4PL model. And in this case, this is AW2, a client of ours based in Milwaukee. And this is their kind of internal partnership network that they've developed, but they use their system and their real-time data to be able to tell people we have this capacity with these requirements, and their partners are doing the same. And if you haven't set that up kind of internally, there's a lot of third parties out there that allow you to either sell your existing capacity or identify a warehouse that meets your needs. Somebody like Pop Capacity. Matt Fain is the founder of Pop Capacity, but these types of kind of 4PL concepts we see becoming more and more ubiquitous. All right, Doug, so one last thought. Tell us about kind of hosting strategy. We're talking about, is WMS being run in the cloud? Is it still being run on premise? And you could maybe even comment on kind of like some financial models, some commercial models that go along with those.
The same kind of adaptability and flexibility our customers are looking for from us, and functionality and adaptability and scalability of the software itself, they also want on the deployment. So we're ones that if companies want to run it on premise, they can run it on premise. If they want to run in the cloud through our provider, they can do that. This day and age, cloud's been around for a little while. They might have a cloud partner that they love that's done a good job. There's no reason why we can't deploy our system on the cloud provider of their choice. And then we get into how do people acquire the system. Well, some people want to pay one price per month and subscribe and have us host it, so we do the subscription. Some companies like the idea, hey, we want to pay a monthly fee in a lease, but ultimately we want to own the software and not have that be a gift that we give to you, Doug, for the rest of our lives. So a lease is something in between, and then we also do still a fair amount of selling of the software. So with us, it's, again, really meeting customers where they're at, and usually the right option comes to the top. There's plenty of reasons why you'd want to be on cloud or on premise. And so with us, our customers really tell us what's best for them, what fits their operation, the resources, their cash flow, and typically the right way to deploy and the right financial model of how they acquire it rises to the top. So we've got to be very flexible that way. Just like you have to be flexible with the type of customers that you work with.
I do hear of a lot of prospects and clients that are being pushed in one direction or another. They're being pushed to go to a SaaS model, and we get a lot of traction with, hey, this might be run on premise. With perpetual licensing, you'll actually own the system. So thank you for that, Doug. All right, a few points as a summary. So keep in mind, your level on that stratification model, and go in eyes wide open about where are you and what's an attainable kind of goal to get. What type of efficiencies can you gain going from level 2 to 3, level 3 to 4? Implementation for WMS is hard for all systems, right? So also go in eyes wide open about that. So understand the statement of work that you're signing off on. Keep track of what's been sold, right? What's been agreed upon, timelines, having a PM, a full-time PM as part of the project is super important. And also don't underestimate the change management that comes inevitably. Brett will shake his head yes on this as part of the project. That really can't be overstated as you go through these large transformational projects. Identifying a short list of KPIs that kind of will help you dial in. And I love the question, what 3 things, what 5 things would define success for a WMS project? I think if you went to teams in the early stage of implementation and just pulled someone aside and said, hey, what are your three main goals for this project? I think a lot of people would struggle to clearly identify them. There's so much stuff going on, so if you can synthesize that down to some large goals, I think that can be super helpful. Think about the data that you're getting out of it. If you're a 3PL, can you rank your clients by profitability? Is that revenue? Are you including labor in that profitability? How about billing? Are you capturing everything you need to for billing? Is your billing, do you have to go into Excel to bill? That's a problem. And when you set up the system, right, the billing is naturally coming from how you set up the inputs to capture that data. And as Doug said, the only constant is rapid change. So choose something that allows you to adapt quickly, to onboard clients quickly, to integrate with all sorts of systems, get information in and out. So that's all we had for you guys. Does anybody have any? We're open to any and all WMS questions. If you love or hate your system or have any thoughts, we're open to any Q&A.
And if you don't have any questions right now, we live very close to here. Mantis, our booth is right here. So, yeah, as you're here, I mean, either after we're finished, which we're wrapping up now, or during the course of the rest of today and tomorrow, it'll be very easy to find us, and we'd love to talk with you.
Thank you guys very much.